Hi, I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
We're the insiders. So Scott, Ron Johnson is now formally in the race. What does this do to the race, and where do you think things are headed?
Well, it's going to be an exciting year here in Wisconsin. This is probably the #1 Senate race in the country. Ron Johnson, by many pundits' views, is the most vulnerable United States senator. And as a result, I think it would probably be the most expensive election in Wisconsin history. I can see why the Democrats say that Ron Johnson is vulnerable. No doubt the polling shows that he's vulnerable, but I think they're a little overconfident in this race for three reasons. First, Ron Johnson has actually never polled well. Don't quite know why. He never seems to win a poll except on election day, and he's been able to do that twice now. So I wouldn't count him out with regards to that. Secondly, the way the Democratic primary is shaping up, I think that the Democrats are likely to nominate Mandela Barnes, which is, he's the most liberal, the most left-wing of the candidates in the Democratic primary. That's part of the reason he's going to win it. He clearly is the progressive candidate, but that makes him, I think, somewhat vulnerable in the general election. And if you know anything about Mandela Barnes, he is an opposition researcher's dream. A lot of controversial statements, lots of questionable actions over the years. Now, Ron Johnson has his controversial statements as well. But the last reason I think that this race probably leans Republican in the end is that it's going to be a Republican year. I mean, it's going to be a very good year for Republicans across the country, including here in Wisconsin. And Ron has benefited from those sort of waves before, and I think he'll benefit from it again this time.
I think that the last statement Scott made is that oftentimes whatever happens locally, contrary to the statement that all politics is local, what's happened, especially in the last 20 years, is that, and even before that, in the off-year presidential, after the first presidential, it's pretty dramatic, the changes that happen and how the other party seems to take control. And so I think Scott's point is well made there. I think this could be different because obviously there's a lot to happen yet before the fall, whether COVID is still around, what happens with the economy, what happens with inflation. And Ron Johnson is a remarkable person. I think that he is a guy who, unless you had him within the last 20 years, this is a guy who at this point in his career would be absolutely unacceptable. And Republicans would have been doing everything they could to find another person for this race. However, we're burying the lead here, guys. The lead here is that what's happened is that Ron Johnson running means that Kevin Nicholson, it's pretty clear he's already made public statements. He's now running for governor. The biggest implication of the Ron Johnson running is that Nicholson and others perhaps get into the gubernatorial race. And that makes it a dramatically different race. Why? Because we saw what happened to Leah Vukmir with Kevin Nicholson. When that primary went on, that resulted in a situation where Tammy Baldwin won by 11% of the vote. Everyone knows that in Wisconsin, that from the perspective of Wisconsinites, the Ron Johnson race is small potatoes in comparison to the race for governor. And Ron Johnson's absolute entry into this race may actually put us in a position where Tony Evers will actually win in the fall. That's the biggest implication by Ron Johnson getting in. And you can see it already within a week of the announcement. Kevin Nicholson's talking about getting into the race for governor. There's talk about Hovde getting in the race for governor. That's the big change that happened as a result of Ron Johnson getting in.
I think there's no doubt that these two races being on the ballot at the same time are going to affect each other in all sorts of ways throughout the election cycle. They will affect the issues that are going to be debated. They're going to affect which candidates are in the races for each of them. I do think, though, that people who you're right, that Kevin Nicholson's entry into the race means he's going to have to run a negative campaign. That's what he did last time against Leah Vukmir. That's what he will have to do again this time, because Rebecca Clayfish has been out there for so long and has done so well in both raising money and in raising support from people across the state. The only way for him to undo that in the time that's left is really to run a negative campaign. I think that's what we will see there.
That or spend lots of money, but I think both of those may happen. Lots of money and negative ads. And we know what that did both to the last time Leah Vukman ran and in previous Republican races where there have been tough primaries. So it's going to be a very interesting fall and a very interesting spring. We'll see you next time, guys.